The man behind a massive scam network in Southeast Asia could be facing decades in prison after US officials seized billions of dollars in Bitcoin linked to the operation. Chenzi has been accused of using forced labour to scam victims, and he remains at large. Jack Adamovic Davies is a London-based investigative journalist and has been following this story closely. Jack, firstly, can you tell us a bit more about Chen Zhi and what he's been accused of?
Yeah, absolutely. So Chen was born in China, but he's spent the last 15 plus years in Cambodia, where he's built an immense network of political connections that really runs all the way up to the Prime Minister's office. He's a personal advisor to the current Prime Minister, and he was a personal advisor to the previous Prime Minister, both of which were father and son. And with that title, he had the rank of a cabinet minister in Cambodia. So he was very well connected, and he allegedly, according to the prosecutors in New York, he used that patronage to protect him while he built one of the largest criminal organizations on earth. Prosecutors have seized $15 billion worth of Bitcoin from him in recent days, which is it's the largest seizure from a criminal organization ever to take place.
Well, it has been described, as you say, as one of the largest investment fraud operations in history. Just how extensive is it, though, or is it thought to be? It spans many borders.
Yes, so the Prince Group, which is Chen's organization, there's a very interesting thing about this particular organization is they built themselves as a conglomerate, and so they were able to set up operations all over the world that look like legitimate business operations. They even control several companies listed on the Hong Kong Stock Exchange. They were trying to list an airline on the Nasdaq Stock Exchange in America. We're talking billions and billions of dollars. Just the amount of cryptocurrency that was seized the other day is equivalent to a third of Cambodia's gross domestic product. So this is really, it's astronomical. It's hard to overstate just how big this organization was.
And who has been impacted by this alleged fraud? According to Mr. Chen's indictment, Prince Holding Group built at least 10 compounds in Cambodia. What were these sites allegedly used for?
So these sites, and I've been to visit one of these sites in 2023, and they're filled with people who are being forced to work against their will. The indictment the other day contained allegations of torture, of people being held there, people who are trafficked from all over the world to work in what are essentially the world's most horrible call centers, where they're forced to defraud people over the internet, romance scams and that sort of thing. And if they don't meet their quotas and their targets, or if they cause trouble, they can be beaten within an inch of their lives. And this is not something that's limited just to the Prince Group. The UN estimates that hundreds of thousands of people are held in these sorts of conditions all around Southeast Asia. And the estimated financial damage from the frauds that they're forced to undertake is in the tens of billions of dollars.
Well, Cambodia's government itself does not accuse Prince Holding Group or Chen of wrongdoing. Will it be hard to track Chen down?
So I've been told that he's currently in Cambodia, and I think he's a personal advisor to the Prime Minister. He was previously business partners with the Interior Minister, the most senior law enforcement official in the country. If the Cambodian government had wanted to take action against Chen and the Prince Group, it had ample opportunity, and it had all the opportunity in the world to know what was going on. So I think it's unlikely at the current time that the Cambodian government will take action against him. The indictment the other day confirmed what those of us who've been following the Prince Group have suspected for a long time, which is that the Prince Group was paying quite considerable sums to government officials for protection. But with the loss of this $15 billion and with being sanctioned now, totally reduced ability to operate in kind of international commerce, I guess there is a question of how long Prince will remain useful to its patrons in Cambodia. And when that time runs out, my guess would be rather than handing Chen over to the Americans, they'd be much more likely to send him to China, where he's been subject of criminal investigations for much, much longer than he has in the United States.
So what is expected to happen next, and how long could this case go on for?
It's sort of a how long is a piece of string, I think, unfortunately, just because there's so many unknowns in this situation. The Cambodian situation is quite a unique one in that the government there has sort of built a new business model of renting out its sovereignty to criminals in order to allow them to operate safely in return for kickbacks, essentially, to put it simply. And so, it really depends how long Cambodia is able to maintain this business model, how sustainable it is. It's been said to me in the past that, eventually the country's reputation gets too tarnished for this to continue. But I think for that to be true, the country has to have, the country's government has to have some kind of shame about doing this, and there's been no indication of that. This could drag on a really long time, I think.
Well, Jack, thank you so much for talking to us tonight. We really appreciate your insights.
Thanks so much for having me, Yvonne.